2, 1, and we're live, Dave. I love that countdown when I start the podcast. Maybe I'm the only one that sees it. It gives me a big 5, 4, 3. It's like a scene from Thunderbirds when I was a kid. It's fantastic. How are you, Dave?
All right, buddy. Just doing fine. Working hard as always. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm working on, obviously, the Projex Academy stuff and a couple of interesting other projects in my other career. I'm a software developer, so I'm constantly working on software projects for various clients. And this prompted one of our discussions today. Dave, one of the things that you talk about a lot and that you've recently posted a blog about is technical debt. And it's something that I face in software projects all the time. Reworking code. Even sometimes we go live on new installations of software. Client sites, and we know the developers that are involved in the project, we already have this thing called technical debt. So that's the idea for today's broadcast. I'd like you to go over some of the details of this recent blog and video that you did about technical debt, and perhaps we can review. You did a really great video as well that you put on YouTube. I saw you snuck out there. I like that a lot when I saw that one pop up on there. Very good.
Yeah, you've taught me everything, you see. I can do it on my own.
Thank you, Unc. But let's lead off with, so what have you been working on this week, sir?
Well, as you will be aware, Prince 2, the new 7th edition, is my number one priority, and I'm under starting orders from you, sir, to make sure that I keep to that. And at long last, Spain has a bit of a problem with the postage system. After about 7 times from different suppliers, they couldn't find our house, so we gave them the post office address in the big town. Couldn't find that, but eventually we found a little local one. Amazon failed totally, and voila, I've got my new Prince 2 manual here. Now, you might be thinking, well, why have you just got that? Well, that's the postage system, but I've had an electronic version since, several months ago, and I'm using that to develop what our new course, our new masterclass. I'm up to my ears in plans at the moment. That's the section I'm on and working on. I've done 94 now, video lessons. And still loads more to do. So it's fun and it's hard work.
Excellent. I'm much the same, even though I am predominantly ebook and electronic document format guy, because copy pasting and all that kind of stuff is so convenient. Sometimes nothing beats just having good old physical bits of paper on the desk, and it helps my brain visualize things. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah. All right then. Okay, Dave. Let me drag you back onto technical debt before you go down the Prince 2 wormhole. So, my little overview that I pulled up this morning, I was like, hey, we're talking about technical debt. Let me make sure I know what the heck I'm talking about. So it says here, technical debt is a term used in software development and other IT fields to describe the future costs of rework or maintenance that arise from prioritizing speed and shortcuts. Ooh, don't know about those. Over code quality. It's also known as design debt or code debt, and it accumulates over time. All of these things I completely agree with because I face them all the time. And at some client sites, I throw my hands up in despair. But I will stop moaning about these things and let you take the floor and tell us what technical debt is.
Okay, well, I think you've done a pretty general good job there. The thing that I would say is that it was originally termed from a guy called Ward Cunningham. Fair play, Ward, I'm shouting out to you, who came up with the term, and he saw it as being a sort of analogy to financial debt. And I like to use credit cards because they're one of the most expensive things to use money on. And you can get to a point where if you rack up too much credit on your credit cards, you haven't got enough money to pay back the interest, and you start going into the swamp of bankruptcy. So Ward came up with this idea because it has a very good analogy to it. In fact, what I've done is, it was 3 years ago when I created our masterclass for this. And since that time, I've just found so many other places where it's being used. These days, although it originated from software, it certainly applies to just about anything. Just think about systems, new products, new services, literally hardware, or even things you can hold in your hand. Technical debt applies to. So it's come of age, even though it originated, thanks to Ward, from his problems with software, where it still exists.
Hey, Dave, so when was that? Are we talking, has technical debt always applied to just software projects, or is this pre-software?
No, I think it started. In fact, I know it started with software. Ward Cunningham was working on software, and he could see, let's call them bugs for the want of a better word, and how they had this snowball effect. So he coined it on software. I'll have to guess and say it was a decade ago. It could have been a little longer. Could have been around 2000. But so it's been around a little while. But people might hear of technical debt, but they probably don't look into it anymore. Oh, yeah, technial debt. Right. Okay. That sounds interesting. Anyway, what are you having to drink?
So it's still a relatively new concept, isn't it? Of course, I mean, in the terms of, it's not something that's around in the 50s and 60s. And I suppose maybe you could apply it to older projects if they were installing something. And if you're installing a kitchen somewhere and there's a new version of the fridge 2.0 coming, but you're putting fridge 1.0 in, you're classically installing something and introducing technical debt, knowing that you've got to go to 2.0 further down the line when your plumbers turn up with the right cabling or plumbing or whatever.
You're absolutely right. That's a good analogy. And having an old fridge taken out, forget about that you bought an older model, because that's the one they had in stock, take it or leave it. But now you've got to make room for the new one. Let's hope the dimensions aren't that much different, let alone all the plumbing you're talking about. And here in Europe, there's not always a constant height for fridges and stuff. So anyway, that's a good analogy. But as I say, it's now applied in a much broader way to system. Let's call it systems, products and services. They're all there. One of the things, I'm a bit of a devotee of watching the evolution of electric vehicles, even though I don't have one yet. And there was a technical debt analogy coming up between one of the leaders in EV vehicles and one of the more the legacy companies. And they were using, don't quote me, 2 miles of wire in their car, all going all around, because they all had different systems for moving the windows up or whatever. And the newer ones have come up with like a computer approach, where you've got a sort of a central web connectivity, and it goes out in all directions. And they've now, the amount of wire and weight in their vehicles is sort of like couple of 20 or 30 feet. So it's still around, and it's in places a long way from software.
Oh, okay. So tell me more about can you give us a quick overview of the course that you've got on Projex Academy, or even just give us some details of that recent blog you wrote? And if you want to read along with this, dear listener, viewer, this is at projex.com, projex.com/technical-debt. Yes, it's not difficult to find. In fact, if you ever Google, I don't want to blow your trumpet here, Dave, but if anyone ever Googles any of these project management subjects and either puts Projex, Projx, or Dave Litten, you'll find any of this stuff that Dave's written over the many centuries he's been alive. There is rumors that you are immortal. But I digress. Back to you, Dave.
All right. Let me just then take us forward. Rather than describing our technical debt masterclass, it obviously covers everything. I think that in this podcast, dear subscriber, I'll just keep it to the reasons what technical debt is and the reasons why you should pay attention and use it, and we'll leave it at that, I think. Can I just quote? I've got a little bit of paper here. I don't usually use notes, but I just wanted to I didn't want to miss any points in this quick podcast, so I've just got an aid memoir here that reminds me, and here's the quote from Ward Cunningham. He said, way back, "Shipping first-time code is like going into debt. A little debt speeds development as long as it's paid back promptly with a rewrite." Pretty much sums up what you and I have been talking about thus far. Since he came up with that, general public, bless them, engineers, whatever, have been taking a bit of a liberty because they're now using the term technical debt to cover things like bad design, or you haven't done enough testing on the system, or poor integration and things like that. And really, those things should be fixed by training. So I'd like to sort of move those to one side and focus on how Ward saw this and how we should think about applying it to our industries. He came up with that first thing of people taking liberties. He called that naive technical debt. In other words, no, you should fix that first. It's nothing to do with technical debt, even though those things will cause technical debt. He then came up with, interestingly, unavoidable technical debt. And this is where our subscribers might go, whoa, or in that case, I'll watch something else. If I can't fix it, I'm wasting my time listening to these two. But no, it's simply because when I mean unavoidable, what Ward was talking about was unavoidable from the outset because you're using perhaps evolving methodologies for your projects, like Agile, although it could equally happen with traditional projects where you have to build something and learn from it and then refine it, which is typically Agile. So that's what we mean by it's unavoidable to start with. It's part of the design, development, testing that all engineers know about. And we all know we can't come up with the best and perfect first. We have to go through a few iterations and hone it. So that's what he was talking about. Then he talks about strategic technical debt, which is an interesting one for me. And as businessmen, and I guess you and I would both classify ourselves as that, dare I say entrepreneurs, that's a bit of a stretch, but we certainly run our own businesses and our own lives. And one of the things that I'm aware of is, I don't have infinite funds. And sometimes you have to ship a product out there, which could be better, but it's minimally good enough for the customer to get what they want out of it. And then you fix it later. Well, that's a classic example of strategic debt. It might be, as is the way with me sometimes with some of my projects, my side projects as I call them, is I haven't got enough cash flow. So I get something to market to make a bit of money by selling it and then use that money not to go down to the pub, but to actually plow it back in and actually fix some of that technical debt before it gets too bad. And I'll be coming to that shortly. What I'd like to sort of just focus on here is just the consequences, because I think if we can share what the consequences are, it'll get people's heart pumping a bit harder and they'll be thinking, oh, well, perhaps I will take this seriously. Perhaps I ought to look into this a bit more. So again, I'm just using an aid memoir. I've got a one-liner that says unpredictable tipping point. Technical debt, I guess, like financial debt, is non-linear. It starts to snowball, and you suddenly find you're in deep trouble. And it turns out that technical debt, much like financial debt, reaches a critical mass, where after that you're into chaos. And I guess again, if you've got credit card debt, and some people get in real big problems with that it's chaotic. They'll end up going to bankruptcy because they can't do anything about it. It's reached that critical mass. The other consequence of not looking into technical debt and doing something about it is increased time to delivery. Just think about it as you as an engineer, a development engineer, and you're writing code, Nick. If there's technical debt in there, in other words, bad code that every time you're trying to link some piece of software to another routine or whatever, however you do that, I don't know, then you'll find it takes days now because you're fixing all let's call them bugs, but it's technical debt. And those slow you down. In Agile, we call this velocity, which is the amount of work you can do.
I'll tell you a classic example of that. I'm actually fixing exactly that for a client of mine today.
Well, I'm blessed.
This was a project they put in last year, and it was all very quick. We've got to get this in really quickly. So there was, let's say, 100 different applications running for this big client, and they wanted this code done. And the recommendation from myself and one of the other technical leads was, this is how you've got to do it. This will take us a week to put this together, and this is a common piece of code that will work across all of these applications. And they said, well, what's the fastest way you could do it? And the fastest way is, well, we could just copy and paste that line of code into all 100 of those. And it's messy, but that would take 2 or 3 days. But maintenance will be a nightmare going forward, because rather than maintaining one common piece of code, you're maintaining 100 different copies for each iteration. No, this is a really rushed project. So we had one of those stamping, arguing meetings where you're going, I really don't recommend you go this way. No, the decision's been made by non-technical people that just look at one method takes 5 days, one takes 2 or 3. They hear 2. So the decision was made to put this code in. So sure enough, we got it done in 2 or 3 days. And now a year later, they have to update this core piece of code, and we have to do it 100 times. So they're now saying, well, how come it's going to take you a couple of weeks to maintain these 100 copies? When originally you said there was only going to be one common copy, and you now have to refer back to, the project manager and the powers that be, I won't name any names, made this decision to implement this technical debt in the project at time of go live. So I'm very familiar with the frustrations of technical debt, and it's nice to hear you giving an overview. Some of the terms you're using are terms that I've already made little notes with my writing hand that I'm going to flag in certain meetings coming forward. So tell me some more, Dave. Tell me some more.
Okay, so you're getting the feeling here that technical debt slows down the stirring of the pudding ready for the oven, and that's absolutely correct. The next one on my little aid memoir here is rising development and support costs. Talk about, are you sure you didn't rehearse this?
That's the key. That's the key that I look at. It's always, as a contractor, a freelancer, that's what I look at all the time, and everyone else does in the software world. Is, hey, you're paying me to give you a service, and if the service I give you reduces cost, therefore increases profit to the company, it's a good thing. So when you design in a technical debt to any project, I'm very conscious that what you're doing now is your analogy of credit cards was great. You're saving money right now, but it will cost you more in the future if you don't pay it off on time. So, yeah, agreed.
Yes. Again, what used to be simple and cheap to do because you rushed to market is now expensive and difficult. And that has the knock-on effect of all those who wanted to do it quickly to get it done so they can get it out to market, that they've now got an awful thing out there with their name on it that's clogged up, and making any small changes becomes very expensive. The exact analogy you gave, you couldn't have said it better. One of the knock-ons from that, Nick, is what's known as product atrophy. Not a word that I use every day, but we know what it means. Because things take longer to fix and updates are more complex and sometimes they don't work, then your product becomes less appealing. Less people are interested in it. It's got the old stuff on it, whereas your competition's got all the new whiz-bang stuff, features, for want of a better word. And so it becomes less appealing. One of the things that you get in any project as they get more risky and unpredictable is that it becomes harder to fix anything because your estimates are going to be wrong. You can't estimate correctly because of the technical debt has made things unpredictable. What used to be cheap and simple, 10 days. Now it's 20, 30 days. So that is quite frustrating. And that has a knock-on effect to people, the folks that work in these teams. And I've, much like you, I've done that a lot. I've been a project manager, of course, but I've worked in teams just as much. And team morale is quite important. And when you've got technical debt, it slows people down, and it gets to a point where they actually lose any motivation, and they'll start slowing down. The product releases will get worse, and the technical debt won't get fixed. So it lowers performance of the team itself, and it leads to universal frustration. People burn out. Now, just think about that one, dear subscriber, for a moment. I've been talking this as I'm a project manager, as if I'm talking about managing the project. But think about the people that work with you, that are in your teams, that you're proud of, and they're good people. Just imagine seeing them stagnate, and it's because of the technical debt. And unfortunately, there's a group of people that will start to notice that quite quickly. It's called your customers. So the ultimate here that I'll end with on this piece is that you'll start getting customer dissatisfaction. So I don't want to go on to the fixes because they're long. My masterclass will help you if you're interested. But for now, I hope I've given you a bit of a horror story, but nicely, because I'm telling you, everything I've told you thus far, the nightmares, you can fix them up front. You can stop this from having anything like as much of a problem in your business, no matter whether you're in software, hardware, products or services.
Yep, sounds good. That's a lovely overview, Dave. So my takeout from that is that technical debt is something that accumulates during the course of the project, and it is literally what's that saying about borrowing from Peter to pay Paul or something?
Yeah,
it's to get it done now and expect to be paid off later. But the trouble is, it snowballs and gets bigger and bigger. And I certainly see it in projects when you were talking about the members of the project. If any project ends with people in the project saying, I don't want to support this in the future, maybe that's the sign that you've built accidentally technical debt into your project, because the developers themselves are thinking, oh, some bad decisions were made here and we're going to have to come back and fix it down the line.
I guess a parting shot then would be taking this forward for you and I, as well as our subscribers. We probably need to educate our managers, help them. No, I'm not criticizing them. I'm saying let them see the result of this. And perhaps then when they want to rush something to market, we can work out how we could still do that, but knowing we're building in some technical debt. So therefore, they've got enough money in the kitty to actually accept the fact that there's going to be a rewrite, and we're going to tweak this and get back to keeping our product image out there in the marketplace. Our stuff doesn't break down. It isn't hard to maintain, and so on and so forth.
Excellent. And of course, if you want to find out more about technical debt, wander off to the project's website, where if you go to the technical debt blog that Dave wrote earlier, that I mentioned it, /technical-debt, you can read what he said. You can watch a little freebie video on YouTube. And it also has a link to the completely free technical debt masterclass that Dave put together. You did that a couple of years ago, but it's still just as salient today as ever. I'm always impressed by these short, free public courses you put together. So any existing project managers or new project managers for sure, or if maybe you're stepping into the software world of project managing software design specifically, go and check out Dave's course. I thoroughly recommend it. As you can see from the old vampire, he has been alive for centuries, by the way, that I'm talking to, that his knowledge in this matter is encyclopedic. So you should go and dive in. But for now, hey, we've slipped past. Can you believe that's 23 minutes, Dave?
Wow, I've had so much fun. I could yarn forever. But my wife calls me a mouth on a stick.
All I know is all I've had is a cup of tea this morning. I need to go and get some toast with Marmite on there. That's what I need.
That's a plan.
So let's wrap this up. And that's the end of podcast number 5. And we'll come back next week with the next thrilling installment of, I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. Perhaps we'll talk about the new Prince 2 course that you're working on, because I know that's, and I'll just rein you in when you get too excited. When I say, Dave, you've been talking for 4 hours. You can pull it back a little bit.
All right.
That's the way. All right, Dave. Well, as always, that's a good morning, a goodbye from me.
And it's a good morning from me and a goodbye from me. Catch you later.
All right. See you later, Dave. Thanks.
Bye.